Multiplication of fractions. It's got another probably about a 10-minute video on how to multiply fractions. So we started looking at this week. This here is the multiplication sign. Train tracks run one direction. They run parallel. So this is the sign I really want you to keep in mind whenever you're multiplying fractions. Just like everything else we've done, multiply, divide, add, subtract, all have different rules. The multiplication of fractions is the easiest operation we're going to do. So keep this in mind. We are riding the train tracks. When we have a fraction, 4 over, how about 7? Have another fraction, 1 over 3. Remember, the top number is called the numerator. The numerator is the number on top. The bottom number is called the denominator. Numerator and the denominator. Numerator is on the top, denominator on the bottom. When we multiply, we literally go numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator. Let's get started. So this is the sheet we were working with. It's just more of a visual than anything else. So I'm going to pick some numbers. 1 over 4 and 3 over 5. Now what you're going to notice in this is that my denominators, the bottom, are different. I have a 4 and a 5. Well, what does that actually mean? This means that I have 1/4 piece of pie, 4 divisions. I've broken a whole piece up into 4 pieces. When I have 5, this one's a hard one to draw. Yeah, good job, Mr. Paul. So here's my whole. I've broken it into 3 or 5 different sections. My denominator tells me how many divisions I have of the whole. This time I have 3. That's the visual representation of both of those fractions. When we're multiplying, we are okay if these are different. When we add and subtract, as you'll see next week, not so much. They have to be the same on the bottom. When we're multiplying, they don't. Now, remember, this is the weird thing about adding or multiplying fractions. If I break this box into quarters, roughly, not the best quarters, but still I have 1, 2, 3, I have 4 sections. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break this part into 5 sections. Much better. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So rows I've broken down into 5 pieces, into fifths. That would be columns. Rows I've broken into quarters. This is essentially what we're doing when we're multiplying fractions. That's why when we multiply fractions, the numbers often get smaller. Because if I color in a quarter, so what's 1/4? I'm going to loosely color that in. So you can see here that I've colored in one of those quarter strips. Now this side, I'm going to multiply that by 3 fifths. So this would be 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5. So I'm going to shade in 3 of those fifths. Where the 2 overlap, this is actually going to become my answer. So here I have 3, but what's the total number of squares that I've made? I've got, well, 5 times 4 would be 20. So the answer to this should be 3/20. Let's check it out. So train tracks. Draw in these numbers if you want. Sometimes it helps. 1 times 3 gives me 3. 4 times 5 gives me 20. That's a beautiful thing right there. We're not going to look at division in this video. Let's do one more. 3 over 4 times 6 over 10. Woo! Big numbers. I think we can handle it. Train tracks. Numerator by numerator, denominator times the denominator. Well, 3 times 6, 6, 12, 18. 4 times 10, 40. It's pretty much all there is to it. This is all we talked about in class. We're going to come back to this one, though, in just a moment. Let's do one more. See if you can answer this before I finish it. 1/7 times 2/5. So we're taking 1/7 of that rectangle, multiplying it by 2/5. It's going to be a small little number because the bigger our denominators, the more pieces we have in that rectangle. Top by top, the numerator by the numerator. If you want, you can even write it like this. 1 times 2 over 7 times 5. So we're just writing it out. 1 times 2, numerator is 2. 7 times 5, what is that? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. There's my answer. Okay? So I hope that makes it pretty clear. Draw the train tracks, right? Draw the train tracks. So if that's good for you, you can stop watching the video right now and try the video on proper fractions. There's a worksheet, not video. Try the worksheet on proper fraction multiplication. Now there's a few things I want to just talk about in this video as well, so I don't have to reshoot it again. Let's say I have, it's called a mixed fraction. If I have 1 3/5, and I multiply that by 1/6. So this is saying I have a whole pizza, and I have one pizza that we've broken into 5, and I have 3 of those pieces. When we multiply, we can never multiply with a mixed fraction. So it has a mix of a whole number and a fraction. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. So when we have a mixed fraction, let's take 1 2/3. There's a simple way to convert it. Now this is only for people who are looking for a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to go over this fairly quick. This is what we're going to be learning next week. So if I have 2 wholes, 1 2/3, the denominator we are going to use to break up both of our pies or pizzas or whatever you want to call it, cake, if that's what you prefer. So if I look at this, 1 is 3/3. That's a whole. In this one I have 2/3, 2/3. So if I add these together, a little advanced, I have the same denominator. If I count them up, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5/3. That's 5/3. So the way we do this is we take the whole number and we multiply it by how many sections we have. So 1 times 3 is going to give me 3. So see, there it is right there. 1, 2, 3. That's my 3. Then I have to add whatever part of the fraction I have. So 3 plus 2 gives me 5. Whenever we're converting, our denominator never changes. This is going to be 5/3. Let's try one more. 2 4/5. So I don't have 3, but I have 2. I have 2 wholes. So I'm going to take 2 wholes and multiply that by 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then I have to add what's remaining on the top, the partial. That's going to be 4. 10 plus 4 is 14. What do I do with the denominator? Right here. You keep it. You never change it when you're converting. It's the biggest rule. So that's going to be 14/5. All right. So if we go back to blank piece of paper. If I have 1 1/5 and I times that by 2 1/3, we have a little bit of work to do. So 1 times 5 gives me 5 plus 1, 6. What do I do with the denominator? I keep it. Don't ever change it. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. What do I do with the denominator? You keep it. Don't change it. It won't work otherwise. Now, this looks familiar. I multiply across. 6 times 7. Oh my goodness, what is 6 times 7? 6 times 7, 42. I just checked on a sheet, just so you know. 42, 5 times 3, 15. All right? So that's how you do or how you convert from mixed fractions to these are called improper, the rules for multiplication stay the same. Okay? Thanks, guys. Some of you are going to want to watch the next video, which is on simplifying fractions. Good luck. We'll talk to you next week.